Churchill was born on November 30th, 1874, in Blenheim Palace, Oxfordshire, the ancestral home of his family. His family, directly descended from the Dukes of Marlborough, belonged to the highest echelons of the British aristocracy. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was elected as a Member of Parliament in 1873. His mother, Jenny, was the daughter of Leonard Jerome, a wealthy American businessman. In 1876, Churchill's grandfather, John Spencer-Churchill, was appointed as the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, which was then part of the United Kingdom. As a result, the family moved to the capital of Ireland, Dublin. While residing in Dublin, Winston Churchill's younger brother, Jack, John Strange Spencer Churchill, was born. The siblings were cared for by their nanny, Elizabeth Everest. At the age of 7, Churchill began boarding at St. George's School in Ascot, Berkshire. In 1884, he transferred to Brunswick School in Hove, where his academic performance improved. In April 1888, at the age of 13, he narrowly passed the entrance exam for Harrow School. His father desired him to prepare for a military career, leading to Churchill spending the last 3 years at Harrow in a military uniform. After 2 unsuccessful attempts, he was admitted to the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst on his 3rd try. From September 1893, he was enrolled as a cavalry cadet. His father passed away shortly after Churchill completed his time at Sandhurst in January 1895. In February 1895, Churchill was commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant in the 4th Queen's Own Hussars, based in Aldershot, in the British Army. Eager to witness military action, he used his mother's influence to send him to a war zone. In the fall of 1895, Churchill and his friend Reggie Barnes, who was then a subaltern, traveled to Cuba to observe the Independence War, and became involved in the conflicts after joining the Spanish forces, attempting to suppress the independence fighters. Churchill wrote to his mother from New York, expressing his admiration for the United States and the extraordinary people he encountered. In October 1896, he traveled with the Hussars to Bombay. He lived in Bangalore, stayed in India for 19 months, visited Calcutta 3 times, and participated in expeditions to Hyderabad and the northwest frontier. In India, Churchill embarked on a self-education project by reading a variety of authors such as Plato, Edward Gibbon, Charles Darwin, and Thomas Babington Macaulay. His mother sent him books as part of their frequent correspondence. In a letter dated 1898, Churchill, referencing his religious beliefs, stated, "I do not accept Christian or any other religious belief." Although he had been baptized in the Church of England, as he later recounted, he went through a vehemently anti-Christian phase in his youth and identified as agnostic in adulthood. In another letter to a cousin, he described religion as a delicious narcotic and expressed a preference for Protestantism over Roman Catholicism because he felt it was one step closer to reason. While declaring himself liberal in everything but name and expressing support for the Liberal Party, he stated that he could never endorse their support for Irish Home Rule, an issue related to internal governance in Ireland. Instead, he allied himself with the Tory Democracy faction of the Conservative Party. During a house visit, he delivered his first public speech for the Primrose League in Bath. Combining reformist and conservative perspectives, he opposed women's suffrage while supporting secular, non-sectarian education. Churchill volunteered to join Bindon Blood's Malakand field force in the campaign against the Mohmand rebels in the Swat Valley of northwest India. Upon his return to Bangalore in October 1897, he wrote his first book, The Story of the Malakand Field Force, which received positive reviews. During this time, he also wrote his only work of fiction, a Ruritanian love story titled Savrola. Writing, particularly during periods when he was not in active service, became what Roy Jenkins referred to as Churchill's chief habit, a pursuit he embraced as a part of his political career. To keep himself fully occupied, he took to writing, considering it his primary defense against the recurrent depression he referred to as his black dog. Leveraging his connections in London, Churchill participated in General Kitchener's campaign in Sudan as a junior officer with the 21st Lancers, and also worked as a journalist for the Morning Post. He fought in the Battle of Omdurman on September 2, 1898. In October, Churchill returned to England and began writing The River War, an account of the campaign published in November 1899. It was during this time that he decided to leave the military. On December 2, 1898, Churchill went to India to wrap up his military duties and complete his resignation from the 4th Hussars. He spent much of his time there playing polo, the only ball sport that interested him. After leaving the Hussars, he set sail from Bombay on March 20, 1899, determined to pursue a career in politics. In December 1905, Prime Minister Balfour resigned, and King Edward VII appointed Liberal leader Henry Campbell Bannerman as his successor. Hoping to secure a majority in the House of Commons, Campbell Bannerman called for a general election in January 1906, which the Liberals won. Churchill secured the Northwest Manchester seat. In the same month, his father's biography was published, and he received an advance of $8,000. The reception was generally positive. Around the same time, the first biograph séance of Churchill, written by Libisol, Alexander McCallum Scott, was also published. In the new government, Churchill became the Undersecretary of State for the colonies, a minor ministerial post he had requested. Victor Bruce, the Foreign Secretary for the colonies, worked with the 9th Earl of Elgin, and he appointed Edward Marsh as his secretary. Marsh served as Churchill's secretary for 25 years. Churchill's initial task was to assist in drafting a constitution for Transvaal, and to help oversee the establishment of a government in the Orange Free State. While dealing with South Africa, he aimed to promote equality between the British and the Boers. Additionally, he announced the gradual elimination of the use of Chinese contract laborers in South Africa, as he and the government decided that a sudden ban would cause too much distress in the colony and potentially harm the economy. On January 12, 1965, Churchill suffered his final stroke. About 2 weeks later, on the 24th, which marked the 70th anniversary of his father's death, he passed away. 6 days later, on January 30th, a state funeral was held, the first for a non-royal figure since W.E. Gladstone in 1898. Churchill's funeral planning began in 1953, under the codename Operation Hope, and a detailed plan had been formulated by 1958. His casket lay in state at Westminster Hall for 3 days, and the funeral service took place at St. Paul's Cathedral. Subsequently, the casket was transported by boat along the River Thames to Waterloo Station and then carried by a special train to the family plot at St. Martin's Church in Bladon, near the birthplace at Blenheim Palace. Numerous monuments worldwide have been dedicated to Churchill. The unveiling of his statue in Parliament Square took place in 1973, commemorated by his widow Clementine. In other parts of London, the wartime Cabinet War Rooms were renamed the Churchill War Rooms and Museum. Churchill College, Cambridge, was established as a national memorial to Churchill. He is one of 8 individuals granted honorary U.S. citizenship. The United States Navy honored him by naming a new Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, USS Winston S. Churchill, in 1999. Other monuments in North America include the National Churchill Museum in Fulton, Missouri, where he delivered the Iron Curtain speech in 1946. Churchill Square in Edmonton, Alberta, and the Winston Churchill Range, a mountain range northwest of Lake Louise in Alberta, renamed in 1956 in honor of Churchill.